Hello everyone, let's get into the fun part where we will do the Linux download and installation. And for the installation that I have picked is a CentOS operating system. CentOS operating system is just like a Red Hat operating system, and it's a free. And I would definitely recommend you using CentOS for this course because a lot of companies out there that use a Red Hat for their corporate environment. Now, for the version part, I am using CentOS 7. There's also a version 8 that is out there already. If you want to use version 8, you can. That is perfectly fine because my course follow both 7 and 8. But my recommendation is that you stick with 7 because a lot of companies, I would say 95 to 99% of them, are still using older versions like 5, 6, and 7. So it will take them at least 3, 4 years to get onto 8. So if you're in the job market or you want to get into the job market, I would recommend you that you stick to 7. Now, for those who wants to go with the Red Hat 8 or CentOS 8, perfectly fine. You could skip this lecture and go to the very next lecture, which has CentOS 8 instructions for download installation. All right, without further ado, let me get into the download part. So for the download, what you have to do, you have to go into your browser, whichever browser you like, go to Google or any search engine and type CentOS download ISO. Now, by default, it will give you the first page, which will have the link to CentOS 8. We don't want 8 again, we want 7. So let's go back and I want you to type specifically CentOS 7 download ISO and go to the second link which says index of CentOS 7. Click on that. Now click on x86 underscore 64-bit. Now again, every image, if you click on it, you're probably going to get different links of the mirrors. You could pick any one that gives you that CentOS 7. But it doesn't really matter. I'll go to the second one and I'll click on the 64-bit. Your architecture has to be 64-bit. If it's 32, search for 32-bit. Then click on any mirror that you like and it will start the download. So you go into this ISO, CentOS 7 x86 1908. Doesn't matter which version or which build it has. Maybe you have a later one, maybe you have an older one. It doesn't really matter. What matters is it's CentOS 7. So go ahead and click on ISO and save. I will not save it because I have already saved it earlier to save time, save your time and save my time. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel. So anyway, for in your case, once you click on OK, it will start downloading and it will show up here if you're using Firefox. Once it's downloaded completed, then you need to go to your Oracle VM VirtualBox. Now, if you do not have VirtualBox, that is the latest version. This one, the one I have is 6.0. If you do not have 6.0, I would recommend that you upgrade it to the newer version. So now I will go ahead and create a new virtual machine. I'll click on new. And the name that I will pick is my first Linux VM. That's just the name of this virtual machine on the VirtualBox. You could pick any name, but if you want to go along with me, pick that name. By default, you see it is picking up Linux type because I typed in the name as Linux, and the version it's giving up as Linux 2.63.x, 4.x, or 64. If you do not see 64 here, you see 32-bit, then you need to change your BIOS configuration of when you start up your own laptop or PC, you have to go to your BIOS setting and enable virtualization. If you need instructions, I have included the instruction. I have given the link to an article which will walk you through one by one as how you could enable that virtualization in your BIOS. So anyway, if it is showing 64-bit, perfect. Go ahead and click next. The memory size is 1 gig, 1024 megabyte, which equates to 1 gigabyte. That's good. Leave as default. Next, create a virtual hard disk. By default, it's telling me the recommended size is 8 gig. You could leave 8 gig or you could change it. We will change it in the next one, in the next slide. So create a virtual disk. Click create. VDI, which is the default one, leave it default. Click next. Dynamically allocated, yes, leave it default, click next, and now the size. By default, as I said, it's going to give you 8, but for this lab, I want you to type 10 and click on create. Now, our virtual machine is created. As you could see, it's right here saying my first Linux VM. So let me go back in here, and this way I have a clear background. Alright, so now what you need to do is once your VM is created, go ahead and click on start. Alright, so once you started, by default it will ask you, I do not have any operating system. Of course, this is just an empty shell or empty virtual machine. Now I need to attach an ISO image to it, and that ISO image is the same ISO image that we downloaded earlier, that is CentOS 7 ISO image. So go ahead and click on this little folder, and now it will ask you where is your ISO image located. My ISO image is located in my personal folder and in my ISO, and I have right here it says CentOS 7. So go ahead and select that and now click on start. Okay, and on this page by default, it will come on this option which says test this media and install CentOS. I do not want to test. Sometimes this option is good if you are installing with the actual CD-ROM, the physical one, the CD, because sometimes it has scratches and it could impact your installation. So that's why you should always test that media before you do the installation. But since we did the ISO image download, and I am very hopeful and I'm sure that the installation, or sorry, the download was not corrupted. So I'm going to use my up and down arrow key, and I'm going to select the first one which says install CentOS 7, and I'm going to hit enter. Now what it's going to do now is it's going to read the content of the ISO. It will copy the content of the ISO, the ones that it needs to start the installation. It will bring it into the memory, and then it will start an installation wizard that's called Anaconda. That's just a name of the wizard that CentOS uses. It will start and it will help us going through the installer process from one step to another. Alright, so right here you're going to see it says the virtual machine reports that the guest OS supports mouse pointer integration. This means that you do not need to capture the mouse pointer. That is fine. You could go ahead and cancel that. By the way, if your mouse is stuck inside of this window, then you could use the right click. You see right here, this little thing says the right control key. This is the control key on your keypad, and that is on your right hand side. So once you press that key, then it will release your mouse. But if it is your mouse is really going outside, perfect. Anyway, let's get into it. Now, what language would you like to use during the installation process? I am in United States and of course the English speaker, so I'm going to go ahead and pick English and the English for the United States. If you are in a different country, depending on your preferred language, you could go ahead and select your desired language. Now go ahead and click on continue. Alright, in the next page it says installation summary. And this US is basically the keyboard that has been selected. You don't need to click on that. The first thing you need to click is date and time. So date and time is by default. For me, it is already selected my US time. I am in New York. It actually recognized that, so I'm going to leave that as default, and I'm going to click on done. Then it's going to say language support, and as I said previously, we selected English, and for the English United States, go ahead and click done. If you want to change it, you could change it here as well. By default, it picks up my keyboard as United States English keyboard. If you are again in different country, you could pick according to your requirement. Now comes to the part, let's scroll down on the right hand side by grabbing the scroll bar, and then it says the next one, it says software installation source, which is local media, which is our ISO image that is attached to this virtual box. So you could leave that as is. Software selection, it says minimal install. When you pick minimal install, it will not install the GUI. It will only install the text way or command line on your operating system. But for this lab, I want you to go ahead and click on it. And I want you to select server with GUI. This way you will have the server with the graphical user interface, and you will see if certain things that you could add, remove using the GUI. But again, I would say about 80% of the corporate environment do not use GUIs. They always use a command line interface because GUI takes a lot of resources and it could also make your system a little vulnerable for the security threats. So if you are in production or corporate environment, check with your company policy and then you should select the software selection. Also, if you are building a server for different purposes, you're gonna see that the servers has a lot of add-ons that you could do. So when you go to minimal install, you're gonna see it has security tools, smart card support, system administration tools. And you go to compute node, it has all the other add-on selected tools and software that are available to you. Again, it depends what kind of application you will run on this operating system. Based on that, you could select any tools or any add-ons, tools or applications that you want. Similarly, when you go to infrastructure server, you probably heard of many of these servers like FTP server, NFS server, DNS server, all that stuff. If you want to have them installed, you could actually select them here, so it will install that package. But anyway, if you do not select any package right now at this point, and you remember later on that you need to install, not to worry about, you could just simply do the yum install command, which we will cover later in other lectures. That I will show you how you could install the add-on selected add-on packages. Again, file and print server will give you different options, basic server, web servers. I do want you to go through them one by one. I don't want you to select any of them, but again, if you want to select, that's perfectly fine. But I just want you to get familiar with what are the options that are available on this menu. But for this lab purposes, for this training, I just want you to select the server with GUI. And now I want you to go ahead and click Done. Now it's actually checking the software from the ISO. It's basically the software selection is going to the ISO and asking, "Hey ISO, I've been asked to select server with GUI. Do you have the required package?" So that's why it's kind of like going back and forth and checking. So anyway, while it's checking, we'll go into the next one where it says system and it says installation destination. By the way, it's finished and it worked. It came back and it says yes, I do. The next one is installation destination, meaning where do you want to install this operating system, which disk. You remember we picked 10 gig of disk, so we'll go ahead and select this one. And by default, it has already selected 10 gig. Then it has check marked on it, and other storage options. It says partitioning. It says automatically configure partitioning. So we are not going to partition it ourselves. We will let Linux pick the partitions for its own, which is a default partition for the 10 gig disk. And now we go ahead and click on Done. Now installation destination is done. Kdump is when if there's something goes wrong with your system and it crashes, it has to log something that why it crashes. And that kind of kernel dump is when if you have it enabled, then it will actually spit out all the information to a log file. So when you have it enabled, that's only when you have it in. It will spit out the logs only when you have it enabled. Okay, so network and host name. So that's where we need to define the network and the host name of the operating system. So you go ahead and click on it. And host name right here, you see the hostname.local domain. I want you to highlight the entire entry and type in my first Linux VM and click on apply. As soon as you click on apply, you see right here it says current host name, which is localhost, which what it had before. So once you click on apply, it will change it right here, my first Linux VM. So you probably notice that I put in uppercase the first letters, and it changed it to lowercase. Because remember, Linux is um, a case-sensitive operating system, meaning it matters if you put in uppercase and lowercase, but it prefers that you always use lowercase letters. All right, so now let's go into the network where it says Ethernet ENP0S3. Right now, this is the network port that is assigned on your virtual box. So right now, you see it has a hardware, which is a MAC address. It has a speed of 1 gig, and its subnet mask is by default is picking up its local IP. So what we need to do is we need to click on configure, because you see right now it's turned off. Let's go ahead and click on configure. And the only thing I want you to pick in configure is go to general and click on automatically connect to this network when it is available. Now what this does is it actually um, start your network or pick up an IP whenever your computer or your operating system restarts. So go ahead and click on save. And you're going to see right away it picked up. And by the way, this is going to be your Wi-Fi network adapters that is given to you by your VirtualBox. So now go ahead and click on done. All right, the last part is security profile. So we do not have any security profile, but if you are doing this installation for your company, check with your company and check with your security folks. See if they have any security that they use or any template, then you could attach it here, which would apply all the security settings. But anyway, this is lab and this is something we're going to be learning later on. So now I want you to go ahead and click on begin installation. All right, well, in this next page, you're going to get two options while it's going to run the pre-configuration or pre-installation checks and stuff. It is asking us to create a root password. So go ahead and click on root password. By default, root is a system administrative password in Linux. So I want you to pick a root password. I picked a weak password. That is why it's saying this yellow thing at the bottom. It says the password you have provided is weak. The password fails the dictionary check. It is based on a dictionary word. You will have to press done twice to confirm. So if your password is weak, right now as what I have, my password is weak. So you would have to select it done, and another time you have to click done twice. Second option is your user creation. I want you to go ahead and click on user creation. And this is a regular user, not a root or not an administrative user. So I am going to create my account. I'm going to pick my name, Imran Afzal, and the username by default, it'll pick my first initial followed by the last name. And the password, leave the other setting as default. Again, my password is weak, so now I have to select done twice. 1, 2. Alright, so now you notice right here it's saying installing genome user docs and installing this and that. These are all the packages that it needs to install to complete my installation. And the packages, total packages it needs to install is 1353. And so far it has installed 58. Now this whole process could take anywhere from 10 minutes to half an hour or 45 minutes, depending on the speed of your computer where you are running this VirtualBox. What I will do is, from this point on, I'm going to fast forward this entire installation. So if you are sitting now, I will ask you to go ahead and take a break, take a coffee break, or get something to eat. And once it's done, we'll start right from there. So I'm going to fast forward right away and see you on the other side. All right, so congratulations. The installation has been completed. As you could see at the bottom right here, it says CentOS is now successfully installed and ready for you to use. Go ahead and reboot to start using it. And also a little message at the bottom that says use of this product is subject to license agreement found at this location. But anyway, you will get the license confirmation that you can read through and accept it in the next once it reboots. So go ahead and click on reboot. Again, this message appears. You could go ahead and close this. Since it is starting the first time, your operating system is starting the first time, it could take us a little while for it to start back again. But that's fine, perfectly fine. Now, licensing part. I want you to go ahead and click on licensing information. It says license not accepted. Go ahead and click on it. And right here, read through it and click I accept the license agreement. And click done. Network and host name, we already configured that earlier, so you don't need to configure it again. Now click on Finish Configuration. Now it is going to start the GUI, the CentOS operating system GUI now. All right, perfect. So now you'll see it shows you on the top, it shows you the time, some network information, a speaker. You can power it off from here, just like, as if you see on the Windows environment. Now go ahead and click on your name because this is the account that you created. I hope you did not pick Imran Afzal because I hope you picked your own name while we were going through the installation. So anyway, go ahead and click on it. Now provide the password. And once you provide the password, click sign in, it will log you in. But going back again, if you want to log in as root, then you could click on simply not listed and put in the username as root and put in the password. But anyway, I want to log in as myself. I'll put my password in and I'll hit enter. Okay, now we have this desktop looking type of environment that has two icons on it. One is my home folder, one is the trash can. They're pretty big. I usually keep them smaller, so you could go ahead and right click on it and you could do resize icon, and then you could drag and make it smaller. Just like that, right click, resize icon, and drag and make it smaller. You could also move them around, up and down, left and right. So this is your desktop environment. Now if you want to start your terminal, now by the way, if you are doing this for the first time, this is the first welcome screen after the installation. You could just leave it as welcome, and it's going to say English is for United States. I have that selected. I'm going to click next. Typing, it's already selected for me English. If you want to change that now, you could change it as well. Click next. Location services, I like to keep it disabled, so click on off and next. Connect to your online accounts. I don't like that. I want to keep my Linux machine private, secure, so I'll click skip. And I want to click next is start using my CentOS Linux. Once I click on that, it will bring me back to my desktop. On the desktop, as I was explaining it earlier, you could right click and click on Open Terminal. By the way, this help getting started. Genome helps opened up again. I don't need that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to close that. Again, these windows are popping up because I am using this operating system for the very first time. So I could go ahead and close that, and I could start the terminal back again. So anyway, you could close that window. Anything that shows up like software updates available, you don't have to get it now. You could click on not now. And this is the terminal that what you want to see, and this is your command line terminal where you could run all the commands, and that's where this is our platform where we will learn everything about Linux. So you're ready? Let's go.